Hi, my name is Mark Ventura, and I've collaborated with my friend Chris to tell you how slip-ups made by Forrest and even Jack have led us straight to the treasure. The first slip-up is in the Flywater chapter of The Thrill of the Chase. Many people believe that this chapter is where Forrest Fenn reflected on his life and talked about dying when he said things like, "My tackle box is closed." Jack figured out where Forrest buried the treasures where he wanted to die. He also said he searched for a lot of the original source materials for the different chapters in The Thrill of the Chase, so I thought this might be a good place to look for the slip-up. I searched for the original source material for the Flywater chapter and I found it, an article called Memories of the Past Enrich Our Present that Forrest wrote back in 2008. And it turns out he did remove 3 words from that article, "on the fire hole," which does not appear in the Flywater chapter. That is certainly a slip-up, and at the same time, he added a new sentence prior to that where he talks about the Madison River. Now, I don't think Forrest is trying to trick us. I just think he's trying to leave some subtle hints in his book to help treasure hunters. But this slip-up helped Jack find the treasure. So now Jack knew the treasure was somewhere along the Madison River, but he needed another slip-up to help narrow down the search area. Well, the second slip-up happened when Forrest was describing in an interview the difference between clues in a poem and subtle hints in the book The Thrill of the Chase. His advice is always the same. Read the book, then read the poem, and then go back and read the book more carefully, reading every sentence. This great video by the people at Mysterious Writings has 15 or so such famous quotes. But Fenn never gives any specific examples of what a subtle hint could be. That is until the one time when he finally slipped up. Jack himself posted this interview video on his YouTube page. Now keep in mind he only has 2 videos, so it must be important. This was an interview that Forrest had done with New Mexico True Stories back in 2015. Jack was very interested in getting his hands on this video because he heard Forrest had said something that he wished he hadn't said. So 35 minutes into the interview, Forrest apologizes for saying, "I really haven't given you anything." Then he starts going into his talk about the difference between clues and subtle hints. In around 41 minutes, he slips up finally and says that pictures or drawings can be subtle hints. Not even the people at Mysterious Writings caught this slip up. And by 44 minutes, he's saying, "One thing I told you, I wish I did not. I've already said too much." So how did that slip up, pictures and drawings, help Jack? Well, remember the Madison River is 181 miles long. So if you look at the pictures in The Thrill of the Chase, they all have one thing in common. 9 holes, 7-mile bridge, the waterhole. They're all within Yellowstone Park. So this is the aha moment Jack talked about. He now knows that the treasure is on the Madison River within Yellowstone Park. So now that we know that the treasure is on the Madison River within Yellowstone, so where would warm water halt? Where else? The Madison River Confluence, which happens to be the most popular theory for treasure hunters. Now, there's a canyon on each of these rivers, the 2 warm rivers, the Firehole and the Gibbon River, which halt and then form the cold Madison River. But if you really listen to this passage, it has flow to it. Begin it where the warm waters halt and then take it in the canyon down. So if we use our imagination, it is actually the Madison River. And in order to take it in the canyon down, we have to go downstream. For the third clue, not far but too far to walk, we're simply going to take Forrest's advice in his book, Too Far to Walk, and go about 10 miles of river distance, not caring where it takes us. And it puts us right along Riverside Drive in a part of the Madison River called the Big Bend, which looks a lot like an omega, and also might be the unintended clue, bends in the river. So is this part of the Madison River special? I would know, I'm not a fisherman, but looking at fishing maps, it puts us just downstream or below Grasshopper Bank, a very famous fishing hole. So Grasshopper Bank is going to be our home of brown. We can solve clues 5 to 7 pretty quickly. No place for the meek. You're stepping into the Madison River. It's cold. People have drowned. Forrest said to wear a personal flotation device. Grasshopper Bank is dangerous. You can be up to your knees in water and then one moment take one step and be up to your armpits. The end is drawing nigh. It's near. It's on the left side as well. 2 round trips from your car is just under 2 miles, which is supposed to be the right distance. There'll be no paddle up your creek. When you enter anywhere along Riverside Drive, there's only 1 or 2 inches of water. You can't float a boat here. Just heavy loads and water high? Well, this passage that Chris found by Mike Klein, a fisherman, really sums it up, I think. He describes when you get out of your car at Riverside Drive, it's easy to cross to the other side, easy enough for an old man or a 10-year-old child. And then as you go up the bank, it's mostly shallow, but there's some really deep channels that hold lots and lots of fish, lots of 14, 16-inch browns just hugging along the shore. This sounds like it could have been Forrest's secret fishing hole, especially since he didn't see a single fisher the entire afternoon he spent there. We can narrow down the search area using that famous 500, 250-foot rule. It only works in the areas I have marked in yellow, otherwise if you move to the left or to the right, the road moves too far away. And the search area is actually just smaller than the size of a football field, which is exactly how Jack described it. Forrest had said that many people had come within 500 feet, some people had come within 200 feet, and a few people had come within 50 feet. Well, the people had come within 500 feet were simply driving down their highway on their way to other blazes like Barnes Hole or Baker's Hole. The people who had come within 200 feet had crossed the river and were walking along the opposite bank looking for blazes. And then those few people that came within 50 feet had crossed the river and were walking along the edge of the trees looking for blazes. But wait, there's more. Jack kind of slipped up himself when he said that the blaze had been damaged by nature and suddenly. This definitely describes a forest fire. And believe it or not, in 2016, only 6 years after Forrest hid the treasure, a fire called the Maple Fire burnt this part of the Madison River. This was an aha moment for me and Chris found this picture further downstream which showed how severe the trees were burnt. This was also an aha moment for Jack when he realized that he had been searching for a blaze that was damaged and actually burnt. So when he went back to the search area, understanding that the trees were burnt and the blaze might be harder to spot, he was able to find the nook. So that brings us to the last clue. Of course, Jack already has the treasure, but I believe the blaze was on a pine tree, maybe a carving or something else. Pine trees are round when you look down at them. Many of them live to be 100 years old. Some even live to be 1,000 years old, and that would explain Forrest's comments about geographical changes. So there you have it, somewhere on Grasshopper Bank, under a burnt pine tree, lies this nook where the treasure was hidden. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed our video.